Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you all today? I hope you're doing really well. And I'm so glad to meet all of my brave and patient little children today. So, are you ready for today's lesson? Well, let's gear up with your notebook and pen. We're going to learn all about sentences today. Now, you must be wondering, why sentences? You already know how to write sentences. I know that too. But in today's lesson, you'll learn all the different kinds of sentences, the types of sentences, and why we need to vary the length of sentences in our writing to make it better. Let's look at the learning goals for this lesson. Today we'll learn how to identify the structure of a complete sentence, and we'll learn what a complete sentence will look like. We're going to identify different kinds of sentences. We'll also construct sentences for all the types that we'll be learning during the rest of the lesson. Now, by the end of the lesson, you will have had a successful lesson if you can decide what a complete sentence is by looking at a sentence. If you can identify the different kinds of sentences through how the words are arranged in it, and if you can identify it just by looking at the punctuation. You'll also construct some sentences using keywords that you are given, and you'll be writing simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences during the course of this lesson. If we want to master any skill, we'll have to start with the basics, right? Just like that, if we want to improve our writing skills, we'll have to start with writing really good sentences. So let's have a look at what a complete sentence should look like. Well, a complete sentence is a thought that is made up of a subject and a predicate. The subject of a sentence will tell you what the sentence is all about, and the predicate is going to tell you what the subject of the sentence is doing or what the subject of the sentence is. Now remember, even if we write a complete thought that has a perfect spelling, no grammar errors, and there's a subject and a predicate in the sentence, there are two very essential things that we must not overlook when we write every sentence. Can you guess what that is? I think some of you already know. We've been always reminding you not to forget your capital letters and your punctuation. Right, children? So remember to begin your sentence with capital letters and use capital letters properly throughout the sentence where needed. And you need to bring out your punctuation marks properly as and when needed. All right? A quick recap about the kinds and types of sentences before we move on to a little exercise. Now, you must have learned in your previous grades about this. So before I show you what the different kinds of sentences are, could you quickly recall them and see how much of it you remember? Let's have a look at the kinds of sentences. There are four kinds, the first one being the declarative sentence. This is where we make statements, be it a fact or opinion, and these sentences always end with a full stop. The second kind of a sentence is an interrogative sentence. These are questions, and obviously questions end with a question mark, right? Have a look at the third one. These are the exclamatory sentences. Now, normally, these kind of sentences will show some kind of emotion and are always ended with an exclamation mark. Now, the last one is a little bit tricky because depending on what you want to say, it could either have a full stop or it could have an exclamation mark. What do you think is the last one? I think you're correct. The last one is the imperative sentence. These are used for your commands and requests. And depending on what you mean, it could either end with a full stop or it could end with an exclamation mark. Alright? Clear? Okay. Now let's move on to the types of sentences. We have 4 types of sentences here. By now you would have learnt the first 3 kind, but still we will be recollecting what we have learnt, and I will be introducing the 4th kind in this lesson. The first type of sentence are your simple sentences. Okay, I will explain this further down the way. The second one is the compound sentence. Third one, the complex sentence, and the 4th kind is a mix of the second and the third. The 4th type of sentence is the compound complex sentence. Here's your first task. What you have to do is number from 1 to 8 in your notebooks. I will read these sentences out to you. And as you hear me read, you're going to decide whether these are declarative, imperative, exclamatory, or interrogative sentences. The deciding factor should be the way the words are arranged in the sentence and of course from the punctuation at the end of the sentence. Okay? I hope you're ready now. I'm going to read out the sentences. Clear, right? What you're supposed to do. Number from 1 to 8. Listen to me read the sentence and then write whether it's a declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, or imperative. You can even use the first letters D, I, E, I, M like that. Okay? Here we go. I am proud to be a Maldivian. Which island are you from? Let's go. Look at the amazing blues of the sea. How many natural atolls are there? Don't pollute the ocean. The Maldivian archipelago looks like emeralds scattered in a sapphire ocean. This is heaven on earth. Let's see how close we came to guessing the answers correctly. I'll be going through the sentences again with you and we'll discuss what kind of sentence each one of those are. So let's see the first one. How many of you guessed the first one was a declarative statement? Most of you, right? Because we are stating a fact here. Oh, this could be an opinion. Depends. But we know this is a declarative statement because there is a full stop at the end and this is making a statement. Now the next one is obviously a question. I mean, how many times have we been asked this? A lot of people are so curious to know where we are from, right? So you get asked, which island are you from? We know this is an interrogative because there's a question mark at the end. Now the third one is going to be really easy, right? Imperative, of course. No. Is this exclamatory? Why do you think this is exclamatory? Why do you think this is imperative? See, this is what I told you. Imperatives are tricky, okay? This particular sentence is an imperative because let's go. We're just saying something. There's no emotion attached to this. This can either be a command or this can be a request. Let's go. Okay? So this sentence is an imperative. I know most of you must have easily thought this is an exclamatory sentence because you got misled by the punctuation mark. Well, now you would know. Before we decide whether it's exclamatory or imperative, we'll have to see what function the sentence is serving. Have a look at the fourth one. This is of course exclamatory because here we are expressing a happy emotion. Look at the amazing blues of the sea. Every single time I see the waters of Maldives, I am amazed. Seriously. Next is, of course, an interrogative statement. How many natural atolls are there? Do you know? You will get the answer to this question somewhere in the lesson. Just hang on. And next is an imperative, because this can either be a plea or this can also be a command. Like, don't pollute the ocean. It's as simple as that. We don't pollute our oceans. Okay? The last one, oh no, that's not the last one, right? One before the last. Well, this is a declarative statement because this is a fact. It's a factual statement and it's ending with a full stop. The Maldivian archipelago looks like emeralds scattered in a sapphire blue ocean. The last one. This is heaven on earth. Again, an exclamatory because this is another happy emotion. We've dealt with identifying the kinds of sentences. Now let's move on to constructing clear and meaningful sentences. We will be referring back to the 4 types of sentences, the simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. And we'll try and construct sentences of each type. Okay? We'll start with the easiest kind, the simple sentence. Here we're going to learn what the structure of a simple sentence is and how we can construct one. Okay? So a simple sentence is, of course, a complete thought, just like any other sentence. It will contain a subject and a verb, as simple as that. It can also be known as an independent clause. That means this simple sentence can stand alone on its own and still make sense without being joined to any other sentence. Okay? I'll show you an example. The ocean is our most valuable resource. I'm going to show you a picture and we will try and construct some sentences based on the keywords that you get along with the picture. Okay? So now it's time to write. Take a moment and say Alhamdulillah for blessing us with this bountiful reef. Children, when you look at this reef, what is the first word that comes to your mind? Well, I'm going to give you a set of keywords, and using those keywords, you are going to construct simple sentences based on what you see in the picture. Okay? Are there any animals, any corals that you can identify here? Here are your keywords. You can note them down. I'll read it out to you. Marine organisms, reef, turtle, corals, fish, conserve, ecosystem, and mesmerizing. Students, if there is any word that you don't know or you don't know the meaning of, please look it up or ask someone. Okay? Now, once you note these words down, you can construct sentences in your own time. But before that, I'm going to show you some sample sentences that I have come up with. Here are 3 sentences that popped up while I was studying this picture. The fish and turtle swim happily among the corals. It is mesmerizing to observe marine organisms, of course, in their natural habitats, right? We must conserve the reef ecosystem. Now, these are 3 simple sentences, okay? They have a subject and a predicate. They have a subject, a verb, and a predicate. All right? So try and come up with sentences such as these with the keywords you have. Next, we'll look at compound sentences. Now, from the word compound itself, we understand that this means 2 or more things brought together. A compound sentence will have 2 independent clauses which are joined by a coordinating conjunction. Now, what are coordinating conjunctions? Do you remember the fanboys? For, and, no, but, or, yet, so. Well, these words are coordinating conjunctions and they can be used to join two independent clauses or two sentences to make one compound sentence. Here's an example. During the first task of this lesson, we came across a question that asked us about the number of natural atolls in the Maldives, right? So here's the answer. There are 26 natural atolls in the Maldives. Another fact, there are 1,192 islands in the Maldives. Now what we are going to do here is take these two simple sentences and compound them together. Now, do you notice that some words are repeated in both the sentences? Like there are and in the Maldives. So when we rewrite these two together as the same sentence, we are going to omit part of these, okay? Like this. There are 26 natural atolls and 1,192 islands in the Maldives. The word and is coordinating conjunction. I have taken the first half of the first sentence and the latter half of the second sentence. Now we have created a compound sentence, okay? Here's your practice. Ready to note? Here are your keywords. Write them down, okay? Atolls, islands, archipelago, lagoons, ocean, blue. Now once you write these words down, try and construct compound sentences using these words and coordinating conjunctions. I will show you two sentences that I have come up with. You can always use that as a sample to construct your own. Okay, these sentences should be helpful enough. Let's have a look at the first sentence I wrote. Lagoons offer protection from ocean waves, so they are often used as harbors. The word so here is the coordinating conjunction. Lagoons offer protection from ocean waves. One fact, they are used as harbors. Another fact. I have joined these two and made one long compound sentence. All right. Here's another sentence. The Maldivian archipelago lies in the Indian Ocean and it consists of over 1,000 islands. Okay, children, I hope these two sentences will help you get an idea of how to make some sentences using these keywords. You've written it down, right? Okay, let's move on. We've now come to the third type of sentences. But before I go on any further, I really do hope that most of you will now be able to write simple sentences and combine two or more sentences to produce a compound sentence. Okay? Now let's look at the structure of a complex sentence. Any complex sentence would have two clauses. One, an independent clause, and another, dependent clause. Now, how is a dependent clause different from an independent clause? When we were learning about simple and compound sentences, we identified that an independent clause can stand on its own and still make sense, right? But a dependent clause will need to be joined to another clause or another sentence in order to make proper sense. It may not make much meaning if it's just on its own, okay? This independent clause and dependent clause is joined using subordinating conjunctions. Or you can also use relative pronouns to combine an independent clause and a dependent clause and create a complex sentence. I'll show you what some subordinating conjunctions are. If, since, as, when, although, while, after, before, until, because. These are some of the subordinating conjunctions you can use to create complex sentences. Now, relative pronouns are things like who, when, while, where, right? Okay, let's see an example. This sentence, most people are afraid of sharks, although they are harmless. They referring to the sharks, not the people, okay? Now, in this sentence, most people are afraid of sharks is the independent clause, although is the subordinating conjunction, and they are harmless is the dependent clause, okay? Now, I need you to construct some more complex sentences using these keywords. Ready to write? Excellent. Here are your words: diverse, harmless, majestic, ecosystem, feeding habit, and reef shark. I'll give you a moment to take these down. Meanwhile, have a look at the sentence I've come up with. You can use this as a guide when you are writing your own complex sentence based on this picture, of course, okay? So my sentence reads as, when the divers were exploring the slope, they filmed majestic reef sharks cruising past. In this sentence, notice the word when. This is a relative pronoun. I've used a relative pronoun with a dependent clause to begin this sentence, hence the use of the comma. Notice the comma, children. When the divers were exploring the slope, comma. We have to put a comma here because this sentence begins with a dependent clause. Suppose it was the other way around. I began this sentence with the independent clause which reads as, they filmed majestic reef sharks cruising past. Suppose I exchanged these two clauses and began, I'm just going to substitute there with the divers, okay, so that my sentence sounds better. The divers filmed majestic reef sharks cruising past when they were exploring the slope. In this case, I don't need to use a comma. Why? Because the word when is helping me to join these two clauses together, okay? So we don't need a comma there. Now let's look at the second sentence. Sharks play a very important role in marine ecosystem as they help maintain a balance. Of course, sharks are at the very top of the food chain, right? But here notice the word as. This is a subordinating conjunction. There are no commas in this sentence because I've begun this with an independent clause. Sharks play a very important role in marine ecosystem. The latter half of this, they help maintain a balance, is the dependent clause. Okay? I hope you'll practice writing more of your own after this lesson. Okay? Moving on. Here's the last type of sentence you'd be learning today. Compound complex sentences. Now these are a little bit longer than your average compound or your average complex sentence because these would have two independent clauses with either one or more dependent clauses. For example, conditions have improved in the island after a beach cleanup was initiated and the citizens are making use of the trash cans kept in the beach area. In this sentence, if I remove the part in green and I read out the sentence, conditions have improved in the island and the citizens are making use of the trash cans kept in the beach area. This still makes perfect sense, right? This part in green, after a beach cleanup was initiated. Now this is additional information which we are including into the sentence to make it a little bit more complex. Okay? So I hope you practice writing the types of sentences we've learned today, and remember children, the more you practice, the better you'll get. Okay? I have complete faith in you. Now let's have a look at some examples I've come up with using compound complex sentences. A clean beach would look something like this. What fun would it be to stroll along these beaches, right children? Okay, so your challenge this time is to use these keywords and come up with compound complex sentences. That means you should have two different sentences which can stand on its own, and you should include additional information as a dependent clause within the sentence. Okay, so your words are white, sandy, beach, pristine, litter, erosion, protect, beautiful, blessing, coastal, habitat, plants. Well, you have a lot of words to work with this time. So quickly choose your favorites out of these. And if there is any word that is new to you, or if there is a word that you haven't heard of or don't know the meaning of, then I think this would be a good time to look it up. Okay, so I hope you have written some of the words. Shall I go ahead and show you what my examples are? The reason I'm giving you examples is in the hope that you will use the structure, the sentence structure in these examples to construct ones of your own. You can use it as a sample or you can use it as a template to create further sentences. Okay, so here's my sentence, the first one. Our white sandy beaches are a blessing. However, some carelessly litter and spoil the pristine beauty. Come up with another one, because in the foreground we can see a lot of magugas, right? These are beach plants. Beach plants are adapted to coastal environment in a variety of ways and provides a habitat while protecting the island from erosion. Can you just see where the dependent clauses are? In the first sentence, you can say some carelessly litter. That can be a dependent clause embedded between the two white sandy beaches are a blessing and spoil the pristine beauty. In fact, spoil the pristine beauty can also be taken as a dependent clause. Okay, and here beach plants are adapted to coastal environment in a variety of ways can be one sentence on its own and provides a habitat. This is a dependent clause. We are using a coordinating conjunction here. While protecting the islands from erosion, while is a relative pronoun that we are using to create the last part of the sentence, protecting the island from erosion. This is again, it sounds like a small dependent clause. Okay, so your sentences can vary in the number of independent and dependent clauses that you use, and I hope now you have some idea of how to write simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences.
So that's all for today, children, and I hope today's lesson will help you become better writers. And let's meet again with another writing lesson with me. Till then, stay safe, be happy. Goodbye.